Part 2. America. Chapter 26. For 80 years, the boundary dispute had lain in chancery, irresolute, as Penns and Baltimores were born and passed, and nothing ever seemed to move too fast. Though Maryland's case be stronger on the merits, yet Penn's the friend at court of certain ferrets, who'll worry every dimly doubtful acre. The betting in the clubs is with the Quaker. Let judges judge, and lawyers have their day, yet soon or late the line will find its way. For skies grow thick with aviating swine, ere men pass up a chance to draw a line. So one day, into Delaware's great basin, with strange machinery sail Mr. Mason and Mr. Dixon by the Falmouth packet, connected as with some invisible bracket, sharing a fate directed by the stars to mark the earth with geometric scars. Timothy Talks, The Line. From the shore they will hear milkmaids quarrelling and cowbells a clank, and dogs and babies old and new, hammers upon nails, wives upon husbands, the ring of pot lids, the jingling of draught chains, a rifle shot from a stretch of woods, lengthily crackling tree to tree and across the water. An animal will come to a headland and stand, regarding them with narrowly set eyes that glow a moment, its face slowly turning as they pass. America. At sunset they raise the capes of Delaware, and lie to for the night in Hawk Hill Road just inside Cape Henlopen. The astronomers hear rails whistling and a feral screaming in the breaks, that the one imagines as heat and the other as slaughter, though they do not discuss this. Somewhere a channel boy rings. Reports arrive all night of lights upon the shore. Sailors prowl the decks, losing sleep. The sunrise comes chaste beyond all easy wit. The coffee is brewed once, and then poured through its own grounds again by Shorty, the cook. Among the morning breezes, Captain Falconer works his vessel back out between the hen and chicken and the shares to the main channel, and with a pilot willing to take packet wages aboard, begins threading among the bars and flats of Delaware Bay, toward Newcastle, where the bay, narrowed by then to a river, takes its great 90-degree turn eastward, the town wheeling away to larboard brick, white, greyish blue of a precise shade, neither astronomer has ever seen. Citizens and their children waving, horses a-clop upon the paving stones, white public trim work shifting like furniture upon the sky. Children. At that time, Philadelphia was second only to London as the greatest of English-speaking cities. The ship's landing ran well up into the town by way of Dock Creek, so that the final approach was like being reached out to the wind baffled, a slow embrace of brickwork, as the town came to swallow one by one their oceanic degrees of freedom. Once as many as a compass boxed, and now, as they single up all lines, as they secure from sea detail, as they come to rest, none. Here is danger's own home port, where mates swallow the anchor and have fatal failures of judgment, where a sailor goes up an alley, may not return the same swab at all. 'Tis the middle of November, though seeming not much different from a late English summer. It is an overcast evening, rain in the offing. In a street nearby, oysters from the Delaware shore are being cried by the wagon load. The surveyors stand together at the quarter-deck, mason and grey stockings, brown breeches, and snuff-coloured coat with pinch-beck buttons. Dixon in red coat, breeches and boots, and a hat with a severely military rake to it. Weighting the instruments, both now, more keenly than at any time during this late sea passage, feeling like supercargo, posed not before wild seas or exotic landscapes, but among objects of oceanic commerce. As all round them, sailors and dockmen labour, nets lift and sway as if by themselves, bulging with casks of nails and jellied eels, British biscuit and buttons for your waistcoat, tonics, colognes, golden provolones. Upon the docks a mighty bustling proceeds, as wagon drivers mingle with higher-born couples in Italian chaises, Negroes with hand barrows, Irish servants with cargo of all sorts upon their backs, running dogs, rooting hogs, and underfoot lies all the debris of global traffic. Shreds of spices and teas and coffee berries, splashes of Geneva gin and Queen of Hungary water, oranges and shaddocks fallen and squashed, seeds that have sprouted between the cobblestones, pills balsamic and universal, ground and scattered down where the flies convene, and the spadger hops. Stevedores are carrying trunks down the plank, or rolling barrels down into wagons, where horses, not much different from British farm horses, stand awaiting loads and journeys. Thoroughbred cousins clitter-clatter in, hauling an open carriage load of artfully dressed maidens, who do not seem to be related to anyone on board, coming prancingly alongside, smiling and waving at everyone they can see. These are Philadelphia girls who, in the article of reckless flirtation the surveyors will discover, put all the stoop-sitters of Cape Town quite in eclipse. Dixon, playing the rural booby, grins and waves his hat. "What cheer, Paul? Is it thou?" Philadelphia girls, Philadelphia ways, heavenly sights, Shulkelside nights, and Philadelphia days. Debarking passengers are scrutinized by dockside visitors with varying motives. Some are actually there to meet passengers. Some have come to gather information. Others, with an interest in the category of traveller termed unwary, have passed the morning perfecting before pocket mirrors images of guilelessness. Appropriate elements hover about the cargoes of small but interesting items such as gemstones and medicines with pilferage in mind. Vendors of all sorts have set up to address the sailors 3 weeks at sea. Those who do not stroll these pictures one by one ignore them, streaking past, eager to be into town before evening's first illuminate windows. Pass it by, lads, 'tis not for you. Why should you ever need this marvellous potion? Praised by the most successful lovers of all time. You there, you've heard of Don Juan, Casanova, and how about old Q, the star of Piccadilly? What do you think keeps him so brisk, eh? Milkmaid in your pocket, right here, Jack, me boy, milkmaid in your pocket. Proving to be a curious portable cup, equipped with a simple siphon for carrying about the liquid of one's choice, upon which one may then suck. Whatever the circs, during a card game, out in the street, back in the ship. Her name is Graziana, lads, a daughter of Naples. You that's been to Naples, and you that haven't, why, this is your chance. She may not speak a word of English, but there's something she can do. And she's doing it right now. See her handle it. See her flatten it. See her toss it twirling in the air with all the female exuberance of her race. And we haven't even gotten to the scummers yet. The sign upon the wagon says it all, boys, heaven or bust. Those are the choices. You've been out around the world and you know it's true. Now what are you going to do about it? Go in another tavern? Follow like a trained dog another flashing of satinet? Wait one card too many to gather up even a few small coins? Stumble back to the ship? Single up all lines, out once again into certain danger? What do you think Jesus feels like when he sees you missing another chance like that? Oh, he's watching. He knows. The Reverend McClenahan, a rousing evangelist said to be much in the Whitfield mould, has just been through town, and the effects of his passage appear everywhere. Snooty urban Anglicans, for whom Christ has figured as a distant minor saint, are suddenly upon the streets with their wigs askew, singing original hymns about rebirth in his blood. Presbyterians and great Conestoga wagons haunt the approaches to taverns and inns, gathering up sinners of all degrees and persuasions, taking them far out into the country and subjecting them to intense sermonizing until they either escape, go to sleep, or find the true turning of heart that needs no authentication. Even Quakers are out in the street, bargaining with unexpected pugnacity for a share of this population suddenly roused into Christliness. The new religion had crested better than 20 years before, the Reverend Cherrycoke explains. By the 60s we were well into a descent that grew more vertiginous with the days, ever toward some great trough whose terrible depth no one knew, or yet knows, the intermittently gloomy Ethelma. As so often, the Reverend finds himself looking for Tenebrae's reactions to the thoughts of her cousin, the university man. All respect, sir. Wouldn't the scientific thing to have been to keep note through the years after of those claiming rebirth in Christ, to see how they did, how long the certainty lasted, to see who was telling the truth, and how much of it? Oh, there were scoundrels about, to be sure, says the Reverend, claiming falsely for purposes of commerce an awakening they would not have recognized had it shouted to them by name. But enough people had shared the experience that charlatans were easily exposed. That was the curious thing, so many having been through it together. You should have seen this place the time Whitfield came. All Philadelphia delirious with psalms. People standing up on ladders at the church window, torchlight bright as midday. Direct experience of Christ. Hitherto the painfully earned privilege of hermits in the desert was in the instant, amid the best farmland on earth, being freely given to a great town of burghers and church folk. They need only accept. How could the world have remained right side up after days like those? 'Twas the Holy Ghost conducting its own settlement of America. George the Third might claim it, but 'twas the ghost that ruled, and rules yet, even in deistic times. Say, Depew considering, no wonder there was a revolution. Some revolution, remarks Euphemia. Why, youth, cries her sister. How not, protests Athelma. Excuse me, ma'am, but as you must appreciate how even your sort of music is changing. Recall what Plato said in his Republic. When the forms of music change, 'tis a promise of civil disorder. I believe his quarrel was with the dithyrambists, the Reverend smoothly puts in, who were not changing the forms of song, he felt, so much as mixing up one with another or abandoning them altogether, as their madness might dictate. Just what I keep listening for, Thelma, Euphemia nods, in the songs and hymns of your own American day. Yet do I seek in vain after madness and rapture, hearing but a careful attending to the same forms, the same interests as of old. And have you noticed the way everything suddenly has begun to gravitate toward B-flat major? That's a sign of trouble ahead. Marches and anthems for triumphs that have not yet been made real. Already 'tis possible to walk the streets of New York, passing among buskers and mongers, from one street air to the next, and whistle along and never have to change key from B-flat major. Ah, and yet, if I may, the young man seats himself at the clavier and arpeggiates a few major chords. In C, if you like. Here is something the fellows sing at university when we are off being merry. To Anacreon in heaven's its name. I'll spare ye the words, lest the innocence of any air in the room be assaulted. Tenebrae has invented and refined a way of rolling her eyes, undetectable to any save her target, upon whom the effect is said to be devastating. Athelma's reaction is not easy to detect, save that he is blinking rapidly and forgets for a moment where middle C is. The air he plays to them would be martial but for its tempo, being more that of a minuet, 32 measures in all, which by its end has feet tapping and necks a-sway. Here, I say, is the new form in its essence. 4 stanzas, Sentimentally speaking, a sandwich with the third 8 bars as the filling. That phrase, playing it, ascending like a skyrocket, its appeal to the emotions primitive as any experienced in the act of cousin? Of eating, that's all I was going to say. Hands spread in gawky appeal. She shakes her finger at him, though, as the Reverend can easily see, in naught but play. And this is the sort of thing you lads are up to, he avuncularly rumbles, out there over Delaware, anatomizing your own drinking songs. Is nothing sacred? And is there not but a small skipping dance step, till you be questioning earthly, nay, heavenly powers? Something's astir in music anyway, quickly inserts Aunt Euphy. Most of the new pieces used to be one dance tune after another, or for the morning next a similar enchainment of hymns. No connection, gig, saraband, bourrée, la la la, while a trip through the zinnias of life, and how merry, of course, but my stuff. Thelma, waving a sheaf of music sheets. All has become departure and sentimental crisis, the sandwich filling, it seems, and at last return to the tonic, safe at home, no need even to play loud at the end. Mason and Dixon's West Line. Aunt Euphemia, setting her oboe carefully upon the arm of her chair, in fact shares this modern quality of departure and return, wherein year upon year the ritornelli are not merely the same notes again and again, but variant each time as clocks have ticked onward. Chance has dealt fair and foul, life, willy-nilly, has been lived through. As to journey west, adds the Reverend helpfully, in the same sense as the sun, is to live, raise children, grow older and die, carried along by the stream of the day, whilst to turn eastward is somehow to resist time and age, to work against the wind, seek ever the dawn, even, as who can say, defy death. A drama guaranteed every time a reed woman picks up her instrument, wick-wacks. A novel and music, whose hero, instead of proceeding down the road, having one adventure after another, with no end in view, comes rather through some catastrophe and back to where she set out from. No place like home, eh? Guffaws Lomax Lespark. Doesn't sound too revolutionary to me, declares Uncle Ives. Sounds like a good sermon aimed at keeping the country people in their place. That's because you ain't hearing it right, Nunk. 'Tis the elder world turned upside down. Athelma banging out a fragment of the tune of that title, played at the surrender of Cornwallis. 'Tis a lengthy step in human wisdom, sir. Oh dear, beware then. The Reverend groans in a manner he has learned, if challenged, to pass off as stomach distress. Athelma seems dangerous to him somehow, and not only because of Tenebrae, toward whom these days he is undergoing deep avuncularity with its own jangle of sentiments, pure and impure. Yet, leaving all that out, there remains to the boy a residue of worldliness notable even in this Babylon of post-war Philadelphia, a step past deism, a purposed disconnection from Christ. South Philadelphia ballad singers, Athelma has meanwhile been instructing the room, generally tenors who are said in their succession to constitute a chapter in the secret history of a music yet to be made. If not the modal change Plato feared, then one he did not foresee. Not even he, his mathematical cousin Depew, is disquieted. My point exactly, cries Athelma, who has been edging towards the spirits, mindful that at some point he shall have to edge past his cousin Tenebrae. 'Tis ever the sign of revolutionary times that street airs become hymns and roistering songs anthems, just as Plato feared. Hast heard the Negro music, the flattered fifths, the vocal portamenti? 'Tis there sings your revolution. These late 10 American years were but slaughter of this sort and that. Now begins the true inversion of the world. Don't know, Cos. Much of your faith seems invested in this novel music. Where better? Asks young Athelma confidently. Is it not the very rhythm of the engines, the clamour of the mills, the rock of the oceans, the roll of the drums in the night? Why, if one wished to give it a name. Surf music, Depew cries. Percussion? Bray, sweet as pie. Very well to both of ye. Nonetheless, as you, Depew, shall one full moon not too distant be found haggling in the alleys with Caribbean negroes over the price of some modest guitar upon which to strum this very music, so shall you, miss, be dancing to it at your wedding. Then you should be wearing this round your head, suggests Bray, quite upon her beat. If you wish to work as a gypsy, handing him from her sewing basket a length of scarlet muslin, which the game Athelma has round his head in a trice. More a pirate than a gypsy, Bray opines, yet just as romantic in its way. End of chapter.